Hi everyone, I'm Allison. Thanks for joining me for Where I'm From 123. 123. With Kelly. I'm reading The Leftover Woman by Jean Kwok. She also wrote Girl in Translation, Mambo in Chinatown, Searching for Sylvie Lee. I really enjoy her books. And I enjoyed this. And um, and she's that for me. When she has a new book, I want to read it. And Kelly, I'm trying to add you, and I've done it 3 times, and hopefully this will work soon. Fourth time, nope, fifth time. Um, how are you all settling into the new year? I'll try to add to you. Maybe that'll make a difference. Boop. That work? Hmm. Soon. I assume you're on your phone, and if this doesn't work soon, we can just start over and see if it works better. Sometimes that the Instagram live um, gods shine on us when we start over. Sorry, I've approved you like 10 times. Hey! It's just humorous. Like, I just keep approve, and it's like, doesn't want it. So
For your patience.
I'm used to it by now. It used to like get me all, I would be like sweating and like hot. And now I'm just like, oh, Instagram is little elves inside of Instagram are having fun. Little trolls? What are mischievous?
Imps, I don't know. Like,
Imps. That's what I was trying to think of. Thank you. Yes, imps. I'm like, elves is wrong. They work hard. Imps. Yeah. So, how are you today, Kelly? It's Friday.
oh, thank goodness. Yes. Oh, 10th time's a charm. Thank you.
That's right, Sonia.
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited for a 3-day weekend. Even though it doesn't really mean anything to me, I just sort of feel like it's good. Everyone needs a 3-day weekend every weekend.
Yeah, why isn't that a thing?
I think there's data to support that there's actual higher productivity when we work less.
Yes.
So, capitalism, give it a try.
That's the only way I got my kids out of bed this morning. You've got a short week next week.
It's so hard to go back. It's really, and I am like trash at pep talks because, it's like, oh, you hate school. I get it. Yeah. You know,
I know.
it's hit or miss.
It's the weight of a letter. Thank you. Just said that they've never joined IG Live.
Thank you for being here.
I haven't either. This is my first.
Oh,
I thank
well, welcome.
you so much for making it happen, Allison.
You're welcome. This is my at least 123rd. So it is a funny, imps are running it for sure. So that's what the I stands for. So is there anything you'd like to talk about before you read? Oh, well, I want to say this. I don't know if the weight of the letter is your former student who works in the cheese shop. Okay. So spoke to Georgia Line yesterday, and I told her your story you told me about the former student and how much you enjoy teaching where I'm from, and she's just really touched, and she's just a lovely person and everything you hope she would be, and she told me so many lovely stories about teaching it to different classes, and your Olga, hi Olga, and anyway, I thought that was a lovely anecdote. You can obviously tell it yourself and give more context if you'd like. But I just, before I forgot, wanted to say I don't think she ever tires of hearing about people feeling seen by her, by an iteration of her work.
Right. Yeah. I think that what really strikes me about it, I grew up writing poetry first. and I do not consider myself a poet. I love writing poetry. Poetry is probably my favorite thing to read, but I now especially it feels very exposing to share poetry, or it feels like a page straight from my journal, and
Hmm.
the way that crafted nonfiction doesn't. And I like I said to you, I teach where I'm from format reliably at least once a year, if not twice a year, and it always cracks open even the most suspicious student.
Hmm.
There's so much space in this poem, and there's so much there's space for everyone and anyone, and yet I was always afraid. I often do the exercises that I give my
Yeah,
students alongside. If I don't, I don't show them, but
right.
this works too. This one always scares me. And so this week I've been working on a really difficult, and I I poured it into this form and was really grateful because it just gets you right in the moment and the sensory
It
detail, and I
does.
love it.
It's made me a much better writer. Listening to the poems, and I feel have internalized the prompt to some extent. Like now, when I'm writing, I'll sit there and be like, "Yeah, come on now, you gotta more sensory details. Let's
Right.
you got to put more in there. Like the audience needs something to grab onto,
Yeah.
and I know just from listening, not, one is not enough. You got to keep because you don't know what's going to grab someone, what's going to speak to them. So you got to give them choices. So it's definitely changed the way I write.
Yeah. And my having this come to me from a student who was uh, one of those students. Now she's a friend, so it feels,
Yeah.
but at the time that she introduced the format, was that was the first time I ever attempted it. But I was sitting next to a poet, an amazing poet, Marcy Nelligan, and she, shared hers, and I thought, well, that's it. I can never share mine. Hers was just exquisite that she could get something within 5 minutes, just like the easily a better poem than I could ever write in my entire. I spent my entire life trying to write one poem. Um, so I think that's probably where the intimidation from. But I loved when Katie brought this to the group, and then I thought, oh, I'll just I should share this in my classroom. And then as the years went by, some people would say, oh, I've seen this, and now it's getting people know it, and for one of those moments that I'll always remember because it was seeing a student in that moment as the teacher, right? Because she was teaching us, and so there's something in this poem I think that just allows for that too, just for anybody to arrive um, in, on an equal footing, just through
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was laughing too because Georgella told me an anecdote yesterday and it made me laugh so hard about how she was in a workshop or critique group and the teacher brought in a styrofoam head with a wig on it and said, "This is Agnes. She's your internal critic. So whenever you say something like, I can't go after you, you were so great, which is something we all say in those situations. We're intimidated by the person who's read before us. And so when you said that, it made me think of her. So she said, whenever you have those thoughts, whenever you just say, Agnes, I'm not listening to you. And I just love that she went to the effort to personify it and to bring in a wig head. And she said, she doesn't have eyes or ears. You can't feed her. She can't see you. I just thought it was brilliant. So now I feel like I have a little bit of Agnes
yes,
in me because I am trying not to say that in workshops. How could I possibly go after you? As if we need to prove our worth of like that we can be there in this workshop.
yes, it's true. Well, and Katie Machen, if you're watching, thank you for being amazing you are and knowing that this, who knew that 10 years later, this circle back
Yeah.
this way.
And I mean, Georgella was saying she heard that Jill Biden teaches it, like it's,
Oh, ah, that's
yeah.
great.
So with that, without further ado, would you like to read yours?
Uh, yes, although
Do you have more?
it's scary. Um, yeah, yeah, I will. It felt a lot scarier when I wrote it, but now I
Mhm.
so.
Yes, and I
Uh,
mean, you apologize in your email in advance if you cry, and please feel free to cry. I try not to cry because I'm the listener, and I feel like that might make the reader feel like, oh, but I cry when I read my own.
well, I was happy, not happy, but relieved to see, looking back at some of the, like you said, 123 that you've done. I watched, I've seen quite a few, and there is something about. I mean, it does make us cry, but I'm definitely not. All right, where I'm from. I am from the pines, from the potbelly stove, propped up on cinder blocks, leaking curls of smoke out along with the heat. I'm from standing for hours in the snow, arms outstretched, waiting for the birds to pluck the seeds from my hands. They never pluck the seeds from my hands. I am from marmalade monarchs, from box turtles and bats, whose sunset dances announce a different kind of dawning. I'm from the little yellow single wide at the end of the dirt road. I'm from peanut butter circle sandwiches and whole milk cut with water, from schools and church basements and layaway, from other people's names in my books, from she thinks who she is and maybe tomorrow. I'm from Miss Mary Mack and Bloody Mary, the man in the white van and the clown in the woods, from singing the states in alphabetical order. I'm from trouble dolls and mass cards, from the little pink books clasped shut with a lock. I always lost the key, was always surprised I could unlock them anyway. I am from the house of no sleep, from a father in the garage, a mother at the sink, from Sadie and Antoinette, Walter and Frank. I'm from prideful, handsome men who let cigarettes dangle from lips, and from quiet, pretty women with secrets. I can still sing the states in order, can still tell a bird from a bat in the night. I'm from standing at the darkened doorway, knowing not to enter, but keeping watch, keeping watch.
Beautiful.
Just at the end.
It wasn't one of those like choking ones, which is always what you don't want to do when you're reading out loud. The quiet is nice.
Yeah.
Um, well, that was just beautiful. I said in the email that I sew the arms outstretched, trying to, I'm not going to say it right, but trying to get the birds to feed from your hand. I feel like, I don't know, that just really spoke to me. I never did that, but I did a lot of waiting and watching in nature and feeling that kinship with the natural world. Like I'm not alone because this is here, and that is what that said to me. That image, and um, I'm so grateful that I had that because it got me through. So that was just it really struck me, and I loved all your names. They're ones that have had a resurgence. You have like the cool family names.
And we're pretty boring, but yeah, it's female
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
lineage.
Hmm. It was beautiful. I loved it. So, what was it? You've sort of spoken about what it was like, but so you're writing an essay, I'm guessing, about this. So, what was it like with these two parallel things happening?
I think in the essay, I had an idea of sentence, but I didn't know what they meant yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a little afraid that last moment of standing at the darkened doorway is from a particular scene that um, that I was trying to connect to the outdoors,
Mm.
and I think um, that's what came out of this. It wasn't just darkness in that room. It was, the bats at night, um, even the darkness of waiting, right? The darkness of disappointment, uh, and mostly the darkness of loneliness. I think I know that I was an only child, and I loved being an only child. I was laughing with somebody the other day about this, writing in my journal. I remember when I first started writing in journals, I wrote in a tent in my room. Like I could not be alone enough. Like I couldn't, and so that solitude was really comforting and not as scary. But looking back, um, you know, living in such an adult world sometimes as a kid, so the nature really comforts me, and still comforts me today as a mom. Like, making sure that my kids can access that is really important to me in
Me too. Um, um, the the image of you in the darkened doorway really hit me too, and made me think of it's. I mean, obviously, doorways are a really powerful metaphor, um, and I think most of us have an experience with some doorway that held something. Um,
Yeah, I, it came up in this draft of the essay. I don't think it's actually going to make it to the final, but I needed to move through it to understand what I was writing about.
mhm.
But it's depression, and my dad dealing with depression when I was a kid and not really being able to understand that.
Mine was too.
Yeah,
That's funny. It was
huh,
not.
that,
It was, yeah. It was daytime. I don't know if it was for you, and then it was dark in the room.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mm.
And knowing as a kid, not having the words for it, but no, it's a different type of loneliness.
Hmm.
The person you love is not able, and you want to help,
Hmm.
but uh, in my house it was called he went to the sleep doctor. So that's how it was defined as a sleep problem.
Mm. My mom was meditating
Yeah.
for a lot, like a lot of meditating, hours of meditating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a book associated with the meditating, which became like a looming, very large in my imagination, this tome that was had so much power over her, right? Because, like you say, I mean, I'm like, what, 4 or 5, trying to understand how it's doing it to her. And
Yeah.
why? And why does she keep doing it? Stop opening that book. It's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing to me how clearly we can recall things. I don't know, like certain images, and I think the poem really taps into that. Like it gives you a conduit or a container that helps you take it seriously, these memories. It's like, oh, this, I remember that this is real, because I mean, I also am a person who has struggled with believing myself. So I appreciate tools that give me the proof I desire. And I feel like this does, like, oh, this is just right here. Oh,
Yeah. And the poetry, I teach this beautiful essay in my class about growing up in a nail salon. And the first line of it is I was born in a nail salon. And we talk about that jump, right? Like, I am from the Pines. There is nothing more true. And I don't have to explain it. I don't have to prove it. And I love that about this poem. Just where you're is wherever you want to be from that day, right? Tomorrow, if I write this poem tomorrow,
Yeah.
it will be.
Yeah. We contain multitudes for reals. And this shows that, yeah, because I've written different, I'm trying to do one a year, but man, time's running out. My birthday's soon. So I don't know if I'll do it this year, but it just the exercise of and how they're in conversation with each other. I appreciate that. You know, like they all know each other. These are all parts of me. And there is a little overlap for me. I see the overlap. At some point, I'd love to see if anyone else sees them because that's something else I find intriguing in hearing people's poems and talking with them. They will assume that something they've said means something to me.
Yes.
You know, it's like, oh, I don't know. You know, it's because I'm coming at it with all of my own experiences and context. And so to me, the versions of my poems are in conversation with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I got a little shiver when you said that darkened doorway was the same. I mean, what are the chances of
No, that was uncanny. But I guess when it became clear it was the same sort of, I thought, oh, I guess that makes sense because of its incongruity.
Yes. Right. Uh, yeah. I think going back, right, having that breadcrumb poetry allows you to breadcrumb in such an efficient way, and the fact being able to birds, being able to sing the alphabet or sing and what things still know where you're from. I think that doorway is so um, elemental in the same way that nature is.
Yeah. Yes. Um, well, anything else that you would like to say, or did your former student friend make it?
I can't tell. I
Mm.
know that she's right now, so
Mhm.
maybe not. But she was
She can watch it later.
going to watch it.
Um, I think that's how most people watch it, of course. But well, I just want to thank you for joining me, and I do want to say how much I enjoyed your memoir, The Leaving Season, and I did feel like this poem was in conversation with your book, and when I was reading your book, I thought about where you were from, and I was curious as I was reading it, like um, because of course that informs the decisions we make later in life, and why you would move out to the middle of nowhere. Because I would not, like, I just wouldn't, you know. Seaside, sure, great, that's familiar to me. Out in the middle, nope. So it is a beautiful memoir, Sarah, I agree. um so anyway, I just was like, and I'm excited to hear you writing an essay, and I just think I I can't wait to read it. And I appreciate your time, and I read Wanting as well.
Yay! It's almost
Yeah.
my
Is it really?
birthday. It's so
Time flies. You
yay!
had a big year last year.
A little bit of a big year, yeah. Wonderful. Uh, but I'm glad it's 2024 now.
It's funny how I was just talking with a friend about this, like how, you know, life is so mysterious, like it doesn't make any sense, really, you know, rationally. And sometimes that's very frustrating and overwhelming, but sometimes it's magical and things are happening that we can't put our fingers on. And I felt like I'm sure that you were working on both of those books for a long time. because that's the nature of publishing and writing and all the things. But then they came out within months of each other, a month.
3 months. Yeah, not in the least.
And then it looks like, oh, look at her. She's just publishing books left, like just kind of, just life makes me laugh. Because I'm sure that was not the experience at all for you.
No, somebody actually saw Dan here from still here, but we were talking the other day about or resolution things like
Mm-hmm.
and oh, I hope I don't butcher that or quote about some years very similar, and it really felt like that for so many years I was working for so long, both projects,
Yeah.
COVID in between, made everything take uh, and and then for them to arrive in the world, sort of supercharged everything in an intense way, but uh, helped me see my book, the anthology, helped me see my book in a new way too, and
Yeah.
the conversation that came out of wanting for file,
Mm-hmm.
it helped speak a little more loudly when my book.
That's wonderful. I mean, good for you. And yeah, I've just imagined like when I saw it because I became aware of you and the books all kind of in the same moment, and I'm sure I'm not the only person who did. And it was just kind of like, oh, what must that be like? Because so often we do just kind of work on things, and I joke with other writer friends like you just want someone else to kind of pick up some of it and help you along because it just feels like, oh, okay, I'm capable, but could I be less capable? Maybe,
I
could
could done yet.
yeah. So, well, anyway, I hope it's the beginning or the continuation of many wonderful things for you. And I also want to say to anyone who's listening, Leaving Season, ostensibly, I think it's a book about divorce. People might sort of boil it down to that, but for me, it was about loving yourself. That's what the book was about. So, don't be scared off because some people are like, I don't want to read about that, whether they're in a happy marriage or an unhappy marriage and just don't want to go there. And I mean, I'm happy to read about it because my parents were divorced and my husband's parents were divorced. And like, I'm married, but I know lots of divorced people. It doesn't bother me. But, and I'm a big fan. I'm the friend you should come to when you're getting divorced who will be happy for you. Um, because I know, well, if you're getting divorced, there's a good reason. And it was a difficult decision to make. And I thought your book did really speak to that, like how complex a relationship is and how difficult it is to dissolve. That's such a weird, that's not how it works. Extract yourself. Um, so I loved it.
Unsnarl. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just writing about estrangement because I'm estranged from a bunch of my family members. And I was talking about tentacles. That's what it like trying to the little like trying to get them off. It's the process. You can't just sort of untie a knot. It's not how it works.
No, it's almost when your necklaces get tangled and you can't find the one little part that's going to release it.
Yeah.
But
That takes me. I had a little necklace when I was a child, and I didn't know to hook it back together, and it got little knots in the chain, and you never get them out.
right, that
Yes, the memoir does contain beautiful prose, Sarah. I agree. It's beautifully written. If Kelly was in a workshop with me, I certainly would say I don't know how to follow that. So,
unless you're, but
um, well, thank you so much, Kelly. I really appreciate you joining me and sharing your poem and conversation. And thank you to everyone who joined us. And have a lovely weekend.
thank you so much. This is an amazing project.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.